If you are a 9 to 5 person and you care about your health, please listen to this. Listen very carefully. Now, I know that one of the main things that we value whenever we have a career is our health insurance, all that kind of good stuff. And that matters. However, the thing is, the best health insurance that you can have, so to speak, is the proper maintenance of your body. And the thing that really concerns me, having worked in an office for over 14 years with my engineering career, is that there are so many things that you and I do on our jobs, day in, day out, that are detrimental to our health, and we don't even realize it because we see it as normal because it's the way that society in America runs. And so therefore we dismiss it, and then we kind of put everything into healthcare, all the while not really realizing that there are things that we do over the span of a career that are destroying our health, that are cause us to end up in the system, that are cause us to end up with, the bills and all that kind of stuff that comes with that. Okay. So when I was on my 9 to 5 job, these are the things that I noticed in regard to my job, how my job was not beneficial to my health and how it was actually detrimental to my health. Number one, I was getting little to no sunlight every day. Now, check and see if this is the case for you. I was getting little to no sunlight on my job. Now, it's normal for us to work inside of buildings. Very few people have jobs where they work outside unless you're a construction worker or a landscaper, or something like that. But I had little to no access to the outdoors, except for except for when I drove to work and walked from my car to my office, or when I walked from my office to my car to go get something to eat real quick, on lunch break, or when I left work. And by that time, when I left work, it was about mid-afternoon. So you might have a little bit of time to do something. You didn't really feel like doing anything when you left work. Can I get a witness? And but there was very little sun exposure. Um, I'm gonna tell y'all at the end of this some things that I did to help to combat the detrimental effects of my career on my health. So that's one thing. I got little to no sunlight during the day. Number two, I was sitting down literally, well, almost literally all day. So like you get in the car to drive to work, and I had like about a roughly 30-minute commute to work. Then you walk from your car to your office and you sit down for roughly 8 hours a day. It was broken up a little bit depending on what tasks I was working on. And then you sit down in the car when you drive back home. So easily sitting down 6 to 8 hours a day. And if you know anything about the harms of sitting down for several hours at a time, even more than a couple of hours at a time, is bad for your health. It starts to cause changes in your like your insulin sensitivity, with your heart and your circulation, different things like that. I'm sure I've recorded a video about that before, but do your research on the harms of sitting down all day. I've heard some people talk about it being, ranking up there with smoking as far as how harmful it is. Once again, it's one of those things that we don't really think about a lot because it's the way that our society runs, but it doesn't make it okay. It's still hurting you and me. A third way that my career was harmful to my health is that I was surrounded by snacks. Now, I like to say I did exercise discipline most of the time. Sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I didn't. I'm just being honest. But like literally on my floor, we had a dude, a fellow engineer, who he would actually keep and sell snacks, um, at his desk. I'm not sure how he was able to do that, but he did it. And he would actually have people visiting our building from adjacent buildings because they liked his snack selection. I mean, he had everything from energy drinks to sodas to Klondike bars and other ice creams, the peanuts, the chips, candy bars, chewing gum, honey buns, other packaged pastries, and the list goes on and on and on. He had all kinds of stuff. And sometimes when you're trying to figure out something at work, you get a little anxious. You know how it is. You get that desire for something sweet. And so if I had some change on me, $1 or something like that, I might be like, man, let me go and holler at this stuff real quick. But thankfully I didn't do it a lot. But I also had an engineer who was in my group. He sat across from me, at least at one point, and he would literally have a clear crate on display where I could see it at all times from my cubicle, filled with all kind of little candies, chocolate candies, which are like my favorite kind, Snickers, Mr. Goodbar, um, maybe Twix, all kind of stuff. And he would literally never ever let that thing go empty. He wouldn't even let that thing go halfway empty, to be honest. Once it hit that, he already had snacks on deck in his cubicle in one of his desk drawers where he would stock it up and then boom, put it back. And then, folks in the office like to be getting donuts. They be liking to buy, Krispy Kremes, or they had, of course, Dunkin' Donuts, or Wilson's is another place that had amazing donuts. And like I said, for the most part, I did okay. There were times that I blew it, but for the most part, I was able to avoid that stuff. But over my 14 years, sometimes I was like, hey, I'm not saying you can't get some of that, sometimes, but my point is just a constant temptation. And if you're sitting down and eating snacks, this is the way that, for example, health accumulates. So we start to kind of raise our risk for high blood pressure and diabetes. Okay, so that's a third way that this stuff was harmful um, to my health. The fourth way was that once I left work, I was too tired to exercise a lot of times. Now, I will say this. If you followed me for a while, you know that I'm very big on physical activity. I've been big on physical activity since I was a kid. Kudos to my dad for instilling that in me. So I've always liked to exercise, and I would sometimes take brief walks, like around a building or something like that at different points in the day. Or I would do stuff like do calisthenics in my office sometimes, or we had like what you call stretch and flex, where I go stretch with a group of people. Um, but I was literally, when I would leave work, you get in the car and you tired. You don't want to do nothing except for sit down, even though you sat down all day. It's weird how that works. So that was a fourth way that my career was bad for my health. And the fifth way that my career is bad for my health is sometimes what came with the job. Sometimes the stresses that come with meeting deadlines, trying to figure out complex issues, and sometimes you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to figure them out. Sometimes issues with coworkers. Thankfully, I didn't have a lot, but sometimes I did have some things, like if somebody was kind of difficult to work with, or something like that. Thankfully, I didn't get that much. But I know this is big for some people, because some people, like if you're a perfectionist or you're somebody who is just having a hard time learning stuff at your job, or you care so much about your stuff that you take it home with you, where you can't shut it off when you get home, that stuff is bad for you. We're just not really designed to handle chronic stress well. In a moment, sure, but like over a long period of time, and then you draw that out over years and decades, that is part of like the ingredients for health problems. And so these are 5 ways that my career was harmful to my health. Now, if that was you, or is you, and you kind of wonder, well, what in the world did I do? Let me tell you some of what I did to combat some of this stuff. Now, so with the little to no sunlight issue, I don't know if you're able to do this. One thing I would do is, like I said, I would try to take little walks here and there, throughout the day, maybe once, sometimes twice, or whatever, that kind of thing. So I could kind of get some of that sun, you know what I mean? So I could get some of that sun while it was still up. I would do that. Again, I don't know if you can do that on your job, but I wasn't going out there and spending a whole lot of time, lollygagging and talking and stuff. But I would do that. And it was also good for my mental health too, just to kind of do that and kind of break away, having different things run through my head and just kind of think, pray, all that kind of stuff. Another thing is like to break the sitting down all day. I would, like I said, break out and do push-ups, squats, planks, take the stairs or something like that. I even for a little while I had a group of other engineers and stuff, and we would kind of go to like an empty cube hall and just kind of do calisthenics together for about 5 minutes, and then come back. We would literally do this. Okay, so maybe you could do that. Just kind of like find somewhere where you can do some wall, push ups off your desk or wall squats or air squats or something like that, or like the stretch and flex kind of thing that I would do. That was like twice a week. Far as the snacks concerned, um, bring your own. But then above that, just practice discipline. The thing is, one of the issues with snacking is that we don't need food all day. That snacking is not even one of those things that people have. It's like a relatively recent phenomenon. And I recorded a video about this. I'll see if I can remember to link to it. Like snack foods, chips and things like that. That's something that really has been within the past 100 years. And it's not really normal for us to just be eating all day long, especially ultra processed man-made foods. So you wanna try to avoid snacking if you can, especially if you're aiming to lose weight. However, if you really want to like avoid all the donuts and candy bars and things people be having around, bring your own stuff. Maybe get a snack or something like that. As far as being too tired to exercise, there's kind of not a whole lot of ways to work around that. You just have to like resolve in your mind either to get up in the morning beforehand and do something, or you just gotta push through it. Honestly, there's really no other way. Now, I also say an unfair advantage I had was that my job actually would allow you to have what's called fitness leave. Now, I still would have to do it. Well, for a time, I was doing it at the end of my shift, but you go to work. I mean, you leave work, go on fitness leave, and then I would go ahead and get my workout. And then once my fitness leave was gone, if I wasn't done my workout, I still keep on going because my shift is over. But I was tired. But once you get in the gym, you kind of get going, and it's all good. Eventually, we couldn't do fitness leave at the end of the shift because people were taking fitness leave and going home, abusing the system, and so that ended up being taken away. Um, but you gotta buckle down and just do it. Get it in. You gotta just go ahead and go. If you need to go to the gym, go to the gym. If you put your walking shoes in your car, go ahead and take a walk right after work. You know, or something. Go to the park and do some calisthenics and walk in and run or whatever. You just have to carve out the time. It's a fallacy that you don't have time. You do. You do. It's just you have to like train yourself to kind of get past that mental block that's telling you you don't really have time to do it and that you could be doing something else. Um, and I didn't really have an issue with taking work home. I didn't, because I was glad to be done with it, and I didn't have the type of job where I really could take stuff home because I worked on equipment and things that were at my office and stuff like that. And I didn't really have a problem with worrying about that kind of thing. Now, entrepreneurship, which I'm involved in now, that's a different story. That does occupy your mind a bit. It's more fun, but it has a way of staying with you. But you got to find an off switch. You got to find some sort of way to do something where you're not taking it with you, where you just and then you hit the door and keep it there. Fight for it. Just you got to fight for it. But anyway, careers can be bad for your health. And I know that mine in some ways I did, enjoy my engineering job, but there were some ways it was harmful to my health. But those are things that I did to really combat the detrimental effects of a career on my health. Let me know if any of these things resonate with you, or if there's anything else that you do that I didn't mention, that somebody else might benefit from to kind of like help to mitigate the harmful effects of careers on our health. All right, thank you. If there's one thing I've learned about getting fitness results, it's that a big key to losing weight, building muscle, and getting stronger is making sure that you make continuous progress from one workout to the next. This is why I have tracked my workouts for the past 20 years. So I've created a special digital fitness journal that you can use to track your workouts the same way that I do, to ensure that you make the continuous workout progress necessary to get the results you desire. You can record exercises, sets, reps, and even take notes to keep track of those nitty gritty yet important workout details. There's also space to track your big fitness goals as well as a spot to record your weight and waist circumference so you can really see your results. Get your copy today of my digital fitness journal so you can start moving toward your results right now. Link is in the description.